Hello, and welcome to another D&D 3.5 Prestige Class Review. Today, we're going to be looking at the Dread Commando from the Heroes of Battle sourcebook. I'm going to be rating the Prestige class on its concept and execution, going through all of its prerequisites and class features, giving some ideas for how to improve the Prestige class, and some character builds that could work with it. According to the book, Dread Commandos are the elite scouts and strike force of a well-trained mercenary band. These are effectively the special forces of a fantasy world. They are going to move quickly behind enemy lines and attack various targets and then melt back into the forest before anybody knows that they're really there. Naturally, Dread Commandos lend themselves well to being rangers or rogues. Scouts from the Complete Adventure sourcebook, as well as ninjas from the same book, also make good Dread Commandos. This Prestige class is from the Heroes of Battle book and is intended for a war campaign, so that's something to keep in mind as you go through it. The Dread Commando requires a base attack bonus of +5, 6 ranks in Hide, and 6 ranks in Move Silently. You're also going to need the Dodge and Mobility feats. While a +5 base attack bonus is something you're eventually going to get no matter what, and the ranks in the stealth skills are something that you're going to want for this type of character anyway, the dodge and mobility feat requirements are a little bit unusual and make this Prestige class quite a bit more restrictive. While they're not terrible feats necessarily, they certainly aren't going to be the first pick for a lot of characters, and as a result, this is going to make this Prestige class moderately restrictive. The Dread Commando gives you a full base attack bonus, a good reflex save, and a D8 hit die, which is pretty standard for a character that's going to be seeing a lot of combat. You get 6+ intelligence modifier skill points per level, and the skills that you get are relatively similar to those of the Ranger and Rogue, at least the overlap between the two. Oddly enough, you're not going to have Survival as a class skill, but though it's possible you'll have it already from levels in Ranger or Scout. At first level, you gain the Sudden Strike class feature. This is a little bit like Sneak Attack, but it doesn't allow you to use it while flanking, which is a big downside as probably the majority of Sneak Attack damage is dealt while in flanking. Other than that, it shares pretty much every attribute with Sneak Attack, including the 30-foot range limit for ranged sudden strikes, and the limitation that you can't use it on anything that would be immune to precision damage. Another limitation is that unlike Sneak Attack, it can't be used to deal non-lethal damage, so this probably won't be the best ability for taking prisoners. Otherwise, it's just like the Sudden Strike the Ninja has and other classes, and it works exactly the same. At first level, you also get Team Initiative bonus. All allies within 30 feet of you, including yourself, that can see you, gain a competence bonus on initiative checks equal to your class level. As this is a 5-level Prestige class, this means that you eventually will give a +5 bonus to initiative to all of your allies at all times, so long as they're within 30 feet of you, which in most cases they will be, but during a well-coordinated ambush, they might be farther away. That is another limitation of this Prestige class, but it does make sense given the idea that you are commanding them somehow. They need to be able to see you and be close to you to receive this bonus. Team Initiative is fantastic, and it's arguably by far this Prestige class's best feature, and you get it at level 1. Effects that boost your initiative are few and far between, and while it's not too difficult to collect several of them, many of them, such as the Sign spell or Nerve Skitter, are temporary effects that you'll need to refresh often. Improved initiative exists, of course, as does the Scout's Battle Fortitude feature. And an important thing to note here is that, since those are both competence bonuses, if you are a scout who takes levels in Dread Commando, you are going to essentially miss out on your bonus to initiative from Battle Fortitude, as it will overlap with this Team Initiative bonus feature. So this is a very strong feature, and it's a really great start to the Prestige class. At level 2, you gain Armored Ease. You learn to adapt your movements to the restrictive nature of armor. This lets you reduce the armor check penalty of any armor you're proficient in by 2. And at level 4, this ability is going to improve to reduce it by 4 points, in both cases to a minimum of 0. This means that if you're playing a barbarian or fighter and you're able to wear mithril full plate, this will actually reduce its armor check penalty to 0, which can be pretty major. As is at second level, this is going to, at the very least, reduce your armor check penalty with a normal chain shirt to 0, which will save you some money on getting a mithril version at the very least. This ability isn't too useful if you're going to be sticking to light armor anyway, but if you are going to be upgrading to something like a mithril breastplate, it is going to be helpful to have. In some ways, you could look at this class feature as giving you +1 to armor class by allowing you to wear slightly heavier armor, but that only goes for the rangers and rogues entering this prestige class, and for fighter rogue multiclasses or fighter ranger multiclasses or anything of that sort, it could be substantially more helpful. At level 3, your sudden strike increases to 2d6. This does allow you to get a little bit ahead of the curve if you get into this prestige class as your 8th level, sort of allowing you to skip ahead a level on the alternating progression of sudden strike, if you're a ninja at least. If not, this is going to give you some more less effective sneak attack, and that's going to be helpful for your ambushes. At level 4, your armored ease increases to negate up to 4 points of armor check penalty, and you also get the stealthy movement feature, the last new feature of this prestige class. This allows you to take no penalty on hide or move silently checks while moving up to your normal speed, and only taking a -10 while you're running or charging instead of the normal -20. This is going to engage with a rule that probably doesn't come up very much in 3.5 games, so this feature isn't too useful, but if you are sneaking around in combat, or trying to hide and regain sneak attack, especially seeing as you're limited to sudden strike here, then it is going to be useful in that regard. That said, movement-based abilities usually are very situational, and oftentimes those extra 5 feet of movement or 10 feet of movement you gain from this are not going to be that helpful. Finally, at 5th level, you gain the Sudden Strike feature for plus 3d6 damage. This isn't much of a capstone, but it is an improvement on the Sudden Strike ability. If you are playing a ninja, this is going to be a direct continuation of your normal sneak attack, pseudo-sneak attack ability. If you are rogue, you are going to be a little bit more limited getting into this prestige class, but again, if you take this as your 8th level after 7 levels of rogue, then you will be able to be a little bit further ahead on sneak attack than just somebody that went with straight rogue levels. So overall, this prestige class will get 4 stars for flavor and 3 stars for execution. And most of that rating is going to come from the team initiative bonus feature being absolutely excellent by itself. As for whether it's worth taking 5 levels in this prestige class and 2 mostly irrelevant feats, that's going to be up to the individual. As such, you should only take this prestige class if you want the other features anyway, or if you simply like the concept of being a Dread Commando. The best way to get into it, or at least the fastest way, is to be a ranger. You can very quickly fulfill the prerequisites and take it as your 6th level. Taking a little bit longer as a scout, rogue, or ninja will have you at least entering the prestige class with some complementary class features already under your belt. A pure fighter or barbarian is not going to have much use for this prestige class, but a ranger fighter multi-class could enter the prestige class quite early, at around the same level, and enter with heavy armor proficiency. And if you got hold of a mithril full plate, you could be a very novel, very stealthy mithril full plate wearing character. However, while you will be quite stealthy, you aren't going to be able to exploit that as well as a rogue or ninja character would entering this prestige class. In the end, the class I would most recommend to feed into this one would probably be the ninja, simply because of its ability to trigger its own sudden strikes and thus the sudden strike damage from this prestige class by using its Ghost Step key ability, which allows it to basically use swift invisibility with 1 key point. While that probably isn't what they had in mind when designing the prestige class, that is one way to make sure that you are able to use your sudden strike as much as possible. A rogue with a ring of invisibility or blinking will be able to achieve mostly the same effect. If I were to improve this prestige class, I would probably at least give it camouflage as a capstone, or maybe even hide in plain sight. Some sort of ability to finish off the class that really gives it the sense that it is meant to be striking from the undergrowth in a war scenario. Perhaps that team initiative bonus concept could extend to giving your allies some sudden strike dice as well, or something to that effect. While the Dread Commando does make for a great ambush leader character, there's still a lot of potential here that could be explored. And even for a 5-level prestige class, having 3d6 sudden strike damage be the capstone feels a little bit anticlimactic. So, in the end, not a terrible prestige class, but not a truly great one either. So, that's about it for this D&D 3.5 prestige class review. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, and so on. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.